Hello and welcome to the Get Paid to Speak webinar. My name is Jean-Marc Berne and I'm co-hosting this webinar with the amazing Jasmine Sandler, and we'll be switching up. What did I do here? I'm pressing the wrong button. Okay, so as I'm figuring out the technology, I'm gonna start sharing my screen in a second so that we go through the presentation. All right. All right, so let's move this. And there we go. All right, so welcome to Get Paid to Speak webinar, a webinar from two career keynote speakers, me and Jasmine, and a little bit about Jasmine Sandler. She has over 15 years of web marketing strategy experience. She's a digital strategist and has developed and delivered over 100 online marketing plans, plenty of experience with web project management, has managed thousands of web projects. She's a LinkedIn expert and the author of Branding and Sales, The LinkedIn Way. She's also a search marketing expert and managed corporate to small business SEO and PPC programs. And she's best known as a personal branding expert who has helped thousands of entrepreneurs build their social brands. And she is the author of How to Brand Yourself Online Like a CEO. She's also a frequent keynote speaker, trainer with the Association of Strategic Marketing, Online Marketing Institute, Small Business Technology, NY Expo, PR News, SES, Immerse 212, MAA, the list goes on and on. You can see it right there. Founder and CEO of successful web social media and SEO agency, agentcy.com, since 2016. She's also a frequent contributing writer, search, social, digital strategy on clicks, NY Enterprise Report, PR News, Search Engine Watch, Association of Strategic Marketing, Entrepreneur.com, FastCompany.com, and a little about me. Well, I am best known as the voiceover coach of the animated series The Octonauts. I also narrated the Nobel Literature Prize winner Mario Vargas Llosa's audiobook La Fiesta del Chivo, and also narrated Pulitzer Prize and MacArthur Genius Grant winners Junot Diaz's audiobook Negocios. And I'm also a best-selling author and international public speaker, and I'm best known as the Heart Voice Connection. And I've voiced hundreds of multimedia commercial projects and have a series of acclaimed voiceover workshops and have voice-trained public speaking organization in Dubai, Cairo, Canada, all over the US. And I've also been part of the production teams of Nickelodeon and Disney as well. So one of the things that I'd like to cover today, we're going to start first with the vocal component of what makes a great public speaker. And one of the things that is often left out from public speaking is, how do you use your voice? So one of the things that I bring to the forefront is, how do you use your voice with power? How do you project with power and confidence? So how will you stand out? Because one of the things that will make you stand out in a good way, if you speak powerfully and effectively, then your message can be received by others. But will you stand out in a good way, or will all your flaws come out, and because of that, your message won't reach your audience? So it's all about creating mindfulness in the way that we speak and the way that our message is being delivered. So we're going to cover a little bit about that and how we can fill in some of those gaps. So this is what I'd like to call the 3 B's to a powerful voice. The first one is breaking old habits to create new ones. And one of the things that I teach all of my clients is that breathing is at the foundation of strong speech. Mindful breathing makes for mindful speaking, which makes for mindful, just creating this overall mindfulness in the way that your message is being delivered and the way that your audience receives your message as well. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about balance. And balance in the volume of the way that you speak, and also having an emotional balance. So the first thing with breaking bad habits, some of the things that we carry with us are things that we learn from childhood and carry over into adulthood. So we've been taught to breathe a certain way. The normal way of breathing is breathing in through the nose. So one of the things that I am going to encourage you anytime that you're speaking, is to breathe in through the mouth. Now, why is that? Because anytime that you are, let's say you're underwater, you're coming out for air, what is your first instinct? You breathe in through the mouth, you go, the reason you do that is because the mouth is a bigger orifice and you take in more air. Now, why is that important for speaking? We don't necessarily think about this when we're speaking. However, what happens is that, let's say right now I'm speaking and I'm having a conversation and I need to take a breath, and I'm going to take a breath through my nose. So I'm going to take a breath through my nose right now. It takes a long time for me to fill up my lungs. So if you're in the middle of a conversation, the conversation gets interrupted. Gets interrupted. You know what? Someone mentioned about these colored lines. I have no idea what these colored lines are. I don't know how they even appeared on here. In any case, so I don't know. Maybe the gremlins in the computer decided to have some fun with this. I have no idea. In any case, I hope they didn't start coloring all the presentation. So one of the things that is important in order to create new habits, you need to create an awareness. So I'm going to bring this conversation always back to creating an awareness with creating this mindfulness in the way that we use our bodies and the way that you're speaking. So you need to create this awareness of those habits before you can break away from those habits. And one of the things that will create this mindfulness in your body is the way that you use your voice. So instead of breathing in through the nose, going to be breathing in through the mouth. Now, the other thing that happens when you're breathing in through the nose is that it also, let's say we're having a conversation and all of a sudden you hear a lot of this. There's a lot of shallow breathing. A lot of people like to breathe in such a way that they don't lose their breath, so that because they're afraid of losing their breath, they're constantly breathing like that, and that can be very distracting as well. So now by breathing in through the mouth, what that does is that it creates a flow in the conversation. So let's say right now we're in the middle of a conversation and I'm about to take a breath, and I'm going to take a breath through my mouth. You probably barely noticed that I took a breath, and I was able to keep the fluidity of the conversation going. So one, it allows for you to keep the fluidity of the conversation going when you breathe in through the mouth. And two, the other thing that this enables you to do is to keep the power and energy in your voice whenever you're speaking. So every word that you utter is captured by your audience. Now, why is that important? Well, think about this when you're listening to a public speaker, or let's say you are the public speaker and you're losing your breath towards the end of sentences. Now, what ends up happening is that because people didn't hear that last word, that oh so important word that would have brought that point home, all of a sudden people get lost. And it's like, oh, what did she say? What did he say? All of a sudden, you've lost your audience. And it takes a lot of work to get your audience's attention and bring them back into the presentation. So that's why it becomes that much more important to keep that power and energy in your voice, and a certain way of pacing what you are speaking on so that your audience may be able to receive it and receive the full power of your message as well. So some of the bad habits that are out there. We're going to talk a little bit about the bad habits and creating what are some of the good habits that you can create around the way that you speak. So speaking with the wrong voice placement. Now, what I talk about the wrong voice placement is, for example, there are a lot of people who mumble. And so there's not a lot of projection. Is there the sound stays within your cheeks, inside your cheeks, so there's not much sound. And what happens is that it's the equivalent of doing this, and it's very hard to understand you when you're doing this. Another example of bad habit is there are people, especially here in New York, it's like, well, I don't need projection. People tell me I'm loud. I'm like, yeah, you're being loud, but you're yelling. So I like to dispel and also to point out the difference between yelling, and projecting. Like right now I'm projecting. I don't need to yell for you to hear me. So what tends to happen is because most people speak from the center of their mouths, in order to compensate for that lack of projection, they'll start yelling and they think that they need to go like this because, well, I'm just projecting, when really what they're doing is they're yelling and they're pushing out the sound versus projecting, which is allowing for the sound to come out with ease. And the other thing I'm going to mention is staying in one energy. So how many of you have experienced, and you can, I believe you can raise a hand, or I forget, well, anyway, you can put in the chat whatever questions you may have. But have you ever experienced listening to a speaker, and the speaker is all the time at this energy, all the time I'm speaking like this, and you better be taking notes because I've got a lot of information to give, and the whole time it's like, oh my God, that can get really exhausting pretty quickly. So it's important to be mindful of your energy that you're carrying in your presentation, and also to vary up the energies. And there's the other energy, which is this energy, this kind of energy, which is great for a Deepak Chopra meditation. But if you have a 90-minute webinar like this, you're going to lose your audience right away. It's going to be a snooze fest. So it's important to have a variation between the two energies. So right now I'm speaking with that kinetic energy, which is more forward, loud, projected energy. And now I'm speaking with psychological energy. So it's a way to engage, excite the audience, and also reel them into your story. So we create this musicality. So it's important to be, again, bringing it back to that mindfulness about the way that you're using your voice. And the next thing is speaking without a clear intent. It's important to have a clear intent in whatever it is that you're saying. For example, I'm speaking right now, and my intent with this presentation is that you'll get a couple of golden nuggets that you can start using right away for you to start speaking more powerfully, and gain that confidence to step onto the stage and deliver your message with power and confidence. So with that intent, I'm intending to serve you guys, and also working with Jasmine to help you with the social media component of it, and also how to brand yourself. Now, the other bad habits that we can see with certain speakers is addressing the crowd without addressing specific people in the audience. So addressing the crowd versus addressing specific people. Now, what I say, I mentioned this because I have a lot of speakers that come to me and say, well, I'm in a room full of people, so I need to address everyone. So yes, you are taking care of everyone that is in the room. However, what happens is that if you are addressing everyone in the room, what happens is that your energy is dispersed and you are speaking to no one. Instead, what I encourage for you to do is that when you are speaking in front of a group of people, instead of addressing the whole crowd, address the person in the third row on the right, address the person in the middle on the back of the room, and just stand your ground and direct to different parts of the room at different stages of your presentation, because that is when you create that much more impact. Because even though you may be addressing that person on the third row, everybody sitting in that section will feel like you are speaking to them in that section. So it becomes that much more impactful because you have a very focused, directed energy in your presentation. So you become that much more impactful when you do that. Now, I spoke a little bit about breathing and breathing in through the mouth when you're speaking. So the breath is what fuels our bodies and every word we utter. That's why I like to call it the breath of life. We give life to our words through our breath. And this is what gives us our power in our voice and the energy to carry our message to our audience. So breathing is at the foundation of strong speech. So a couple of breathing exercise, and I'm going to go through this really quickly because there's only so much we can cover in one presentation. But we want to give you as much value as possible, so it's something that you can use right away. And the first thing is what I'd like you guys to do and follow along with me from home is what I'd like for you to do is to put one hand on top right below your belly button. And this is what I like to call the Zorch. I'm stealing that from one of my friends, Eduardo Placer. It's just a funny word. It's really the diaphragm, but Zorch is so much more fun, isn't it? So what you're going to do is breathe in through the mouth, and you're going to bring the breath down all the way down to your Zorch. And you're going to breathe in and fill your Zorch with air. When you're going to feel it filling up your lungs so that you feel it moving frontwards to the sides, towards your back, and down towards your pelvis. You guys feel that? If I see some of you on your video, you can just nod or go like this. No, I'm not feeling it. Okay, I see you're nodding, Nancy. Good. And now for the next step for breathing, what I'd like for you to do is we're going to do the square breathing. And it's going to be, first I'll tell you how it goes, and then I will walk you through it real quick. So first things first, you're going to inhale for 5 seconds, and always through the mouth. Pause for 5 seconds, exhale for 5, then pause for 5. So boom, 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 boom. So here we go. We're going to breathe in for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then you inhale and you repeat the cycle 2 more times. So the idea with this is that one, you're creating this consistency in the way that you're breathing so that you're pacing your breath. And 2, this is a great way to start your day, to get ready before a big speech, because as you may notice a little bit, it has a calming effect in our bodies. So again, taking it back to the mindfulness that we're creating in our bodies, because you're creating this state of calm in your body, you're going to be able to also send that feeling of calmness. You're going to exude that state of calmness when you're presenting. And what better way to be powerful when you feel calm and in your body, you're being present with your body. And because you're being present with yourself, you'll be able to be present with your audience and be that much more impactful. And the other thing that I'd like to create is this mindfulness in the way that you're speaking. So before every phrase, you always take a breath. And what you're doing is what I like to call creating beds for every phrase, so that every time that you create a new phrase, you're breathing and creating a new bed. So everything that you say is always well supported with your breath. So this is me in the voiceover booth, and I had been doing this for over 17 years, and it's been quite the ride. Now, the other part that I want to cover really quickly is about balance in the voice. I talked a little bit about the volume. Like if you're speaking too loud, people are not gonna want to hear you. It's like, oh my God, just like this person is too loud, or the person is too low, they can't hear. It's like, what is the person saying? So there needs to be a balance in the volume. And this is what I like to call the happy medium. Like right now, I'm at that happy medium where most people will be able to receive what I'm saying. And also, I also like to talk about the happy medium is where most people will also be able to receive your emotional message. If you have too much, okay, so Tony mentioned about getting paid to speak, and we'll be getting to that. Thank you for that question, Tony, and we'll be covering that soon. So, and Jasmine will be talking a little bit about that. And so when you're presenting, there needs to be an emotional balance. Like too much emotion, it's like people won't be able to receive it. Like people will be shut down. It's like, oh my God, this is too much. Or if there's no emotion whatsoever, people won't connect. So it's important to have that balance between the volume and also the emotion so that people can receive what you're saying. And also you want to create that much more impact. Do you want to be informational or do you want to be transformational? You're welcome, Tony. Okay, so quickly, the summary of this section is that you want to break away from old habits and you want to create this mindfulness in the way that you breathe. And you also want to find the right balance in your volume and emotion. And these are some of the keys to powerful speech. So while these are important aspects of speaking, this is just scratching the surface. So I mentioned about changing up the energies, having a clear intention for your speech, connecting emotionally with your audience, and being present. When you are present with yourself, you can also be present with your audience. And you can be your most powerful self. Or your cute self. All right, so now for the next part of the presentation, I'm going to have Jasmine cover how to become a paid speaker through your social brand. So give me a second. Well,
I'm ready whenever.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just gave you the control.
Yep. All right. I think I'm good. I got the control, Jean-Marc?
Yes.
Nope. You know what? I'll tell you when to move forward because I'm not pulling it here.
Okay. It's waiting for Jasmine to control your screen.
Nope.
That's okay. I can move it from here.
Just move it from there so we can get going. That's fine. All right. Can you just go back one? Perfect. All right. I'm ready to roll. Okay, so welcome everybody. Jean-Marc, I thought that was great. I think, for everyone that's on, you want to become a paid speaker, right? That's why you're here. Thank you for taking time out of your day. I know how busy everybody is. And we want to start with Jean-Marc because, getting paid as a speaker, I'm going to tell you about the tactics in personal branding and social media, but first you have to understand how to speak and how to not bore your audience. I love what Jean-Marc was talking about different tones and how to have eye contact and who to look at and how to approach it. I've been speaking now for, 15 years. All of these things come into play and all of these things drive up So one thing I want to preface by just commenting on quickly, and then I'm going to walk you through how to become a paid speaker, is for some reason it said my agency started in 2016. I wish. I've actually been running my agency since 2006. And a quick reason why I'm here, we all know that the economy took a big crash in 2009. And I found at that time that a lot of entrepreneurs were coming out of the woodwork, and a lot of them to drive visibility and wanted to use speaking as a tool. So I've actually been helping business owners become speakers and paid speakers since then, and that's what I'm going to share with you today. All right, so Jean-Marc, if you could go to the next slide, please. Okay, so as Jean-Marc mentioned up front, I've been doing a lot of work in this area called social branding, which to me is a subset of personal branding. Oh, and also this Zoom with the colored lines, when Jean-Marc was speaking, I was trying to figure out what that issue is. We will not only resolve it, but we will save a clean deck and recording when this whole thing is over. All right, so as far as personal branding goes, you know, personal branding, if you think of people like Mark Zuckerberg, Richard Branson, Tony Robbins, these are some of my personal favorites, and Oprah Winfrey is pictured here. What have they done, right? They're multimillionaires, some are billionaires, and how did they do it? They did it by building value behind themselves as an individual. I've been in social media since I started in the social network back in 2003. So now social media is a tool that anyone can use to not just develop a brand, but also distribute that brand and drive interest around it. But to do that, you got to take into account some of what Jean-Marc was talking about and some of what I'm going to talk about, which is how you develop a brand that people actually care about. And this is especially important for speakers. So that requires the development of proper channels like we do at my agency, and then creating impact. And I'm sure you heard the keyword engage on the brand. Can you flip to the next slide, please? Thank you. All right, so for me, that's been doing social branding, it feels like forever. You know, I think there's, for my own instance, I think there's 4 keys to becoming a social brand. And by the way, at the end of this webinar, I'll handle we'll handle any questions, but we just want to get through the deck first. So what are the keys to the social brand that sells, right? So first of all, you have to create a brand around your strengths, right? Because if you have strengths, and what I do, and I do a lot of training on LinkedIn, a lot of training on personal branding, is I help speakers and entrepreneurs understand how to build strengths around just taking 3 simple key areas, right? So it's about creating a brand around a strength rather than a weakness, and then growing that strength into a market position, right? So you're a speaker. Now you could be a speaker in a number of areas. I'm enlisted with a few of the speaker bureaus, right? So they're looking for things like motivational speakers, like a Tony Robbins, right? They're looking for humorous speakers, right? Like, you know, comedians or whomever, right? They're looking for speakers that understand how to educate and drive action. That's personally what I do, right? So you have to think about, what are your strengths as a speaker, right? Like, what category can you fit in as a speaker, and how are you going to be different yet better than all the other speakers in that category? So that's like 1 and 2. 3 is you need to develop a viral audience. So how do you do that? Well, you have to stick to your brand position, and you have to engage with people. And that's what we're doing today on this webinar. And then 4th would be, you need to protect social brand assets. So, you know, Jean-Marc and I both have written books. You know, we've both developed, I have many programs that I've licensed. Those are assets, right? And if I went back to the last slide, assets equal value equal money. Okay, can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, so for any speaker that's out there, oh, I don't know what happened with that D. We're having issues with Zoom today, but that's okay. So for any key speaker that's out there, if you want to be a paid keynote speaker, like some of my clients that want to go from free to at least 5K to 10K to 30K to 50K to celebrity status, right? So these are what I see that the best speakers have in common, right? Number 1, and we're talking about how you take that speaker brand to a social personal brand. You need to be authentic. So today I'm here, right? And I'm telling you, you know, I'm giving you tactics. I'm trying to help you. And that, if you came to one of my presentations, like I'm running a LinkedIn 4-week class in a couple of weeks, if you came to that, you wouldn't see a disconnect. This is how I am. I like to get things done. This is my personality. This is my authenticity, right? focused, right? Having a specific focus is actually the most important thing as a speaker. It's easy to get discouraged and frustrated when you're out there doing free presentations thinking, when am I going to get paid? You got to stay on the plane and stay on your focus. Number 3 is confident. You really have to believe in what you're selling, and that's yourself. And number 4 in this is visibility, right? So visibility is where I talk about social brand, because you can use tools like social media, search marketing, and the web to drive visibility. Can you go to the next slide, please? This Zoom. Anyway, so a successful brand, right? To be a successful brand, it's not about selling. And I just want to, if I could overemphasize that with you guys, it's more about leading, nurturing, and engaging and educating. So think about, if I just took LinkedIn as a simple example, who's in your first network on LinkedIn? When's the last time you connected with those people? Do they know what you're up to, right? Do they understand what you do? Have you done a developing videos or writing content or engaging in webinars and panels, and keynote speeches? Do they really understand what you do? So your job is to not only create the content, but deliver it to an audience that understands and cares, and follow up with them. Okay, because at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're creating a personal brand. It's just what I call a style. And to me, that style is not just how you look and how you dress, but it's also what John Marc was talking about. That's why we started with him. It's about how you sound and how you come across. Because at the end of the day, this stuff, beyond just getting up there, getting paid the 10K or whatever you guys get paid to keynote, if you start creating assets behind it, right? You write a book, like we do in my agency, we help our clients write books. You create videos, right? You create programs, you license things, and maybe you work with universities. That stuff can become licensable assets for your brand that can have long-term value. Could you go to the next slide, please? Okay, so I'm just gonna literally walk through these so quickly, but just some quick, I think, obvious reasons to invest, and invest with us. You can invest in yourselves, but it's really about investing in yourself to drive this brand. So what are some of the obvious benefits, at least to me, right? Number 1, when it comes to social branding, is when you've done a good job building a personal brand online. And that could be in one channel, LinkedIn, it could be Facebook, it could be Instagram, it could be Twitter, definitely YouTube, right? Or maybe it's your blog, or maybe you're a guest contributor like I am for several online publications in your industry. That will help to garner over time is influence. Influence drives up value, and value drives up dollars, right? So you can go from the 5K request to a 10K, right? Because now you have an audience. And guess what? The media, as I think it's very obvious, has gone from using general PR distribution wires, which they still do, but more they're now using social channels to find the next story, right? They don't pay a dime to be on LinkedIn. We pay a lot of money, right? They're using Twitter. Everything is breaking there. So it's obvious that that's where you need to be, but you need to be there in the right way. Can you go to the next slide? Number 2 is search visibility. So I've owned a search and social media company now since 2006. So I'm split between those two worlds. And it used to be that search was a separate animal than social. Now they're very much integrated. So what does that mean? Today, I'm just talking about your social brand. So if you're doing a good job with your social brand, with a search strategy in mind, which I'm not going to go through today, we don't have the time, but you could easily follow up, or you could send me questions. The point is the benefit is at the end of the day, people will be able to find you and your brand. And an extremely simple example would be your LinkedIn page, right? So that's why 99% of my individual personal brand speaker and author clients, we start with what I call like microscopic. We start with LinkedIn because I know that they already have, you already have a page, right? You already have some network, even if it's just a few users. So what do we want to do? We want to build up a page. I have like 50 videos on this stuff that you guys can watch. But so like just with that alone, if you've done a good job of having your calling card there, so like to Tony, if I've seen that you've already been a paid speaker, or maybe you've done 100 free speaking engagements or whatever it is, and that stuff is there. And if I'm a meeting planner, an event planner for something, whatever your category is, and I find you, I want to make sure that all of that stuff is resident there, because if you continually add content there, that's going to drive up your search index. It's only on LinkedIn, but it's a pass through to Google. Okay, can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, strong reputation to me personally is that as a business owner for 1,000,000 years now, seems like that's a speaker. And, to me, this is number one, is that by building, engaging, educating, and nurturing a brand, you're driving up your reputation, right? We all know that the reputation is the most important thing, right? You would hate to go speak somewhere and the audience is having a negative buzz about you, right? You always want to take into account how you're building your reputation. In my agency, this is what we do all day. We monitor reputations, right? So how do you do that, right? It's up to you to build an appropriate reputation that is transparent across online and offline, because you're a speaker, right? So people are going to shake your hand. They're going to see you live. You want your reputation to be supported both online and offline. Okay, can you go to the next slide? Okay, your social market share. So to me, as somebody that's been in business for a long time, I get a personal brand in the way that I look at a corporate brand, right? So what am I trying to do with my own individual personal social brand? I'm trying to drive up market share. What does that mean? So if I say, or my colleagues like John Marc, or my clients say, Jasmine's very good at X, Y, and Z, right? Or she's an expert in X, Y, and Z. Okay, what I want to do is I want to make sure that if that's my focus, that's what I'm building up content around. So I spend a lot of time and money on my own in all the LinkedIn marketing work that I do, and I write books on it. And believe me, as we probably all can agree, writing a book is not an easy task, right? But as someone that's committed to saying, you know what, I'm going to be a LinkedIn marketing expert and I'm going to educate the world in social branding, I have to spend my time educating myself, participating in boards, participating in communities, and spending my time, even if if it's not a money-making activity, because at the end of the day, the more that you educate yourself and the more that you become a real true thought leader, not just a thought leader, quote unquote, the more that you can build up the influence of your social brand. And what does that do? Then that gets you more visibility and drives up your paid value as a speaker. Okay, next. All right. So, as I mentioned, I have an agency, and a lot of what we do is work with companies to help them understand how to connect the brand build, whether it's a corporate brand or an individual brand, to sales, right? So I just want to literally briefly show you how your social brand can support the sales process. In the case of a speaker, what is it, right? You want to find a meeting planner. You want to find an event planner. You want to find conferences that's worth your time to speak at. You want to find, like John Marc and I found each other is a good example. You want to find colleagues and partners you can work with to expand your audience, right? So social media can help you do all of these things. To me, this is very simple explanation of, in sales, what do, right? So first we have to identify a lead. So for a speaker, you can use social media to identify, just even in Twitter, what conferences are going on in 2018 where I should be there. I should be a speaker, because it's going to put money in my pocket, whether it's going to put money in my pocket as I'm getting paid to speak, or it's going to put money in my pocket because I'm going there, I'm going to speak, and somebody's going to hire me, because all of my clients have both of those needs. I can identify them through social media, right? I can then qualify them. I can see what they're doing. So a lot of this is monitoring. And then from there, I can reach out to them. And that's all about lead generation and lead nurturing. From there, it's about relationship development. So when you talk about getting paid to speak, when it comes to social branding, it's not an overnight thing. I'm very honest with people. It takes time, and you have to build relationships with journalists, with meeting planners. I mean, last week I was on the phone with a guy that runs a speaker bureau. I spent an hour on the phone with them. It could work out, it could not, but I'm developing relationships every week for my clients, right? So you want to think yourself as your best client when it comes to developing relationships that can give you that next speaking engagement. And then once you engage in a speaking engagement, believe me, it does not end it there, right? I'm sure you can all agree. We're constantly, Jean Marc and I, we could barely even get on the phone, because we are constantly speaking, right? We're constantly speaking. So you have to think about it that way. You should have a planned annual calendar for speaking. Okay, we're going to go to the next. And as I said, at the end, we're going to go through questions. So how do you do this, right? So this is about creating a niche. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have already created a specific niche. Maybe some of you haven't. We have a lot of people on the webinar today, so I just want to cover the basics. So it's really critical that you have a very specific niche so that people don't have to think about what they're going to sell you as. Remember that once you build a social brand, you're going to be able to rely on your networks to sell you in, right? If they hear that they need, somebody to do voiceovers, right? Like, so for me, for example, now I know Jean-Marc, I know his niche in voiceovers. If I hear somebody needing voiceover, I'll just hand that over to him. So, but you have to create that focus first, that real niche. Okay, go to the next, please. Okay, so this is all about the hows, right? So how do you do this? Well, you have to create a style. So for you guys that have already been speakers, I mean, this is fine. All of this stuff can definitely help you, I'm telling you right now, because I've worked with people that are already speakers. This is about looking at what you're doing as a speaker, how you can either raise your, right? Or maybe get into speaking areas that you haven't got into before to get paid. Like next week, I'm speaking at a startup conference in Florida. I'm getting paid to do it, okay? This is completely outside of what I normally do. So how did I do that? I started to find where some of the things that I already do can be leveraged for a new audience. So that's also something to think about. But you need to define your style, right? What is your authentic voice? How does your audience engage? Who is your audience? What communication style do they possess, right? Because you need to talk in their language. As Jean-Marc was talking about, every audience is different. Some want to be talked to in a direct way, doing right now. Others want to be talked to in a very calm way, right? So, it's really about how they like to be engaged with. And when we're talking about what I do for a living, I'm talking about the things that you write on your website, what you write on your LinkedIn profile, what you put out in a video, and what image do you want to portray. This stuff is critically important. Next. Okay, so once you determine what that style is, then it's about creating content. There's millions of types of content. This is what my agency does. We develop contents to sports, search, and social. So it's something to think about. And if you've already been speaking, you already have content, you know what? That's awesome news. Because what you can do is you can peel back the layers of the covers and you can start to use that content in a smarter way. Maybe you're not doing that today, meaning a lot of my clients, they're either starting to write a book or maybe they already have a book. Okay, either way, there's something there that can be leveraged. Meaning, if you already have a book, right? I want to break apart that book into little bites of content. The web works through small bites of content over a series-based approach. So when we do content, my agency, we do everything. We do video, audio, all of these things, right? We're looking at how can we, I hate to use this term, but everybody will know it, Netflix this content, right? So what that means is we create a content plan, say, how can we create the speaker as the best in this critical area by creating a series on this topic, right? And we're creating topical content that can be evergreen. What does that mean? That means it can be used over time. So one thing that I would say, a takeaway for you guys to do is take a look at the content that you already have. See, how have you already used this on the web? How can you reuse this on the web? How can you update this for the web, right? How can you target this content for a specific audience? So that's really important. Next, please. So a lot of my clients, they don't know where to start, even if they're, I mean, honestly, most of the people I work with are senior level. It doesn't matter, like generally they're so busy that they haven't taken the time to figure out, okay, now I'm on LinkedIn. I want to commit to the LinkedIn writing platform. It's a simple example. I use this why? Because I know that most of you people already have some type of network that we can leverage for visibility, right? So just simple homework is thinking about, okay, what's my number one topic of expertise? What have you been doing for 5 years, 10 years? What have you been speaking about, right? And if you've already written for LinkedIn, well, do you know who your followers are? Have you engaged with them? If you haven't written for LinkedIn, okay, it's thinking about, okay, what can I put down? 800 words that's going to be educational, that's going to support my focus, that's going to help people to engage with me, that's going to build up my audience, and maybe even it's timely, related to a conference that you want to get into. Getting in the habit of doing this type of content will help to raise your bar and get you to what I think is like nirvana, really, is the thought leadership level. Okay, next, Jean-Marc. Okay, can you keep going here, please? I don't know how much time we have, so I'm just trying to get through this. And we will definitely follow up with this and Q&A as well. Okay, so social channels. So for social channels, there is, I'm focusing on the majors, literally the social channels. But for you guys, what's the most important is understanding what your opportunities are in the major channels. So number one for me as a LinkedIn author, speaker, keynote speaker, this is a lot of the work that I do, is looking at LinkedIn as a social branding tool, right, for yourself. As if you're getting paid as a speaker, to me, you're an entrepreneur, right? First and foremost, it's having what LinkedIn deems as an all-star profile. As you'll notice when you edit your LinkedIn profile, when you get to 100%, they give you that kind of category as an all-star profile. So this is an easy place to start, okay? Because LinkedIn gives you all the opportunities to develop an individual personal brand. They give you the opportunities to write on the platform, which I just shared with you, right? They give you unbound opportunities to network. LinkedIn has over 500 million users, right? In over 200 countries. They have over 4.1 million groups. There's just so many opportunities for you to network. And believe me, meeting planners are there. I've just got a gig 100% through LinkedIn. That's my biggest gig yet in speaking. It is only because of LinkedIn. So I'm telling you, this is definitely worth your time. If nothing else, let's look at LinkedIn, right? So I want you to look at your profile and say, you know what? Back to what I was saying a few slides ago. Does my image portray who I am as a speaker, right? Does my headline portray who I am? Does my summary? Is my experience supported? And do I spend time adding content here so that when that person does find me or somebody in my network refers a meeting planner to my LinkedIn profile, that they're going to find what they need to find, okay? So LinkedIn is truly important. I could spend, like I'm spending next month, 16 hours on a course, but just in general, this is, I think, the lowest hanging fruit for probably anyone that's listening. Next, please. Twitter, this is where social influencers are born. Twitter is where the news breaks, right? So as somebody that runs an agency, a lot of what we do for clients that are corporate clients, right, that are having events where they need speakers, is we're doing pre, during, and post buzz on Twitter. So I'm telling you, this is a place to mine and monitor information. This is where conference leaders and meeting planners and speaker bureau people, they're there, right? So the first thing is to do is, okay, so finding them and then understanding how they communicate, following them and engaging with them is really important at the same time that you start to build up your own content there. This Twitter is the 24/7 kind of real-time tool. And I always tell my clients, even if you can't make a conference, right? It doesn't mean you can't engage in the conversation in Twitter that's happening in that conference. That's a very smart thing for you guys to do because that will get you not just visibility, but if you're really smart about it, you're going to start to have conversations with people that are at that conference so you can then take those conversations offline and develop relationships. Next, please. So Facebook, puts, for me, it's really, for me, the social and social branding, right? So we all know about Facebook, but how are you using it as a business tool is a whole nother question, right? So Facebook, when you think about Facebook versus Twitter versus LinkedIn, it's really more a place where you can be a little bit more personal, where some of the content about you as an individual, like I sing in a band, so sometimes I'll put up videos and things like that, because to me, this is more of a social place where, you should be connecting more with like the first network that you've built on LinkedIn. It's more about the place where you can build influence as a social character. And my best is actually Richard Branson, who I got to see speak front row a couple months ago, which to me was amazing. And it was amazing to actually finally see this guy who's been my personal hero for so long. I want you guys to go on his Facebook page. He's my favorite example because what he does is he promotes his books and his companies in such a way that he's kind of creating a friendship with you, which is really, really interesting. And he's always giving back and he's always educating. You don't really feel that he's selling, and he's open, and he encourages engagement through things like polling or opening up your wall or taking conversations offline, into Messenger, right? So if you're an individual brand, you want to think about Facebook this way, because you really honestly never know who's going to be someone that refers business to you. It's not always about that direct sale or that bureau, or that conference. It could be somebody that you're a colleague with on Facebook, like Jean-Marc and I, and we just see something and we just share it along. So I think it's very important for you to think about Facebook in this way. Could you go to the next slide, please? Okay, YouTube for me, number one. And for speaking, when you take it to like a massive level. So today I'm in my office. We have a big video studio that we just invested in, which I'm really excited about, because a lot of my speaker clients, they haven't yet been on video, and we started there, and now we're doing like full video shoots and all these fun things for them. So even if you start with like simple, this is who I am, this is what I do. If you don't have the money for a speaker reel, like we do speaker reels and all that, but if you're at the place where, I don't even have money for a speaker reel, I know that every meeting planner, they want at least a video of you speaking, right? They want to see who you are. It's really the place to go. So if you have old video, if you have old video of you speaking, even if it's crap, like someone shot an iPhone, fine. You can take a lot of that video and edit that video, because YouTube is a product of Google. And when I talk about search, it has inherent, honestly, massive search index visibility. So if you want to get paid, you want to use YouTube as a visible channel, and there's many, literally, I do a lot of video strategy, and I love doing it. There's lots of ways that you can make video work where you can stand out and be really different, doing things like sharing tips, like I do these tips videos all the time about how to use LinkedIn for X, Y, and Z, so like sharing tips is really interesting, client stories. The other thing with video that I do a lot of when I speak is I will pinpoint people in the audience that I ask for a testimonial. And I actually know that somebody who's on this today was somebody that was in one of my audiences. I asked them for a video testimonial, right after I speak. You can use that on YouTube. So lots of things that you can do. YouTube is fantastic as a branding and thought leadership tool. Next, please. Okay, so relationships. I will keynote on social selling, which is different than this, but I just want to share with you this little formula that I made up a while ago. It's really important, because I've been in social media so long, and social media has changed, but it hasn't. It's still about relationships, right? It's still about you becoming your best community manager, right? So when we think about how you're going to brand yourself, how you're going to use social media, develop relationships so you can get paid as a speaker, think about building relationships. You cannot do it alone. It's impossible. You need help. And people will help you, whether they know they're helping you or not, honestly. So how do you do it? You've got to understand who you're engaging with. That's why I kind of talked about these different tiers of influence, right? So think about your LinkedIn network. You have your first network. Those are the people that are really close to you, right? You probably, I hope, met them. Maybe you haven't met them, but maybe you've connected with them in some way. Then you have the second tier that they're connected to the first network, right? Then you have a third tier. So my point is, you have the opportunity to influence millions of people, right, when it comes to social media. So the more that you can understand who's following you, who's engaged with your first network, the more that you can start to engage with them and not just share your content, but share their content, because it's like it's always like a mutual relationship, right? The more that you can build a community. And that is what builds up a social brand. And that's what's going to get you media interviews. And that's what's going to get you into conferences. And that's what's going to get you things that people are going to say to you, hey, how did you get there? And you're not going to directly, sell something, but over time, people are going to find you. Next, please. All right, so that's me. So quickly, again, I went through this so fast, it's not even funny, but just in general, I'm more than happy to answer any of your questions. I have two businesses, one that is a full service digital marketing agency, agency.com. We do most of our work is for smaller businesses, and I can share that with you later. And then under my personal brand site, I suggest you go to it just because I have lots of blog posts and lots of videos about personal branding, lots of free things there. So that's me. And then I want to get into, if you could go to the next slide. something that Jean-Marc and I are, we've already planned. It's coming up. If you could just click on that, I think the information about the dates is on the bottom. So we're doing this February 16th through March 16th. Today, we wanted to give you tips. So we wanted to give you things that you can kind of implement right away. This 4-week course that we built is really, really intense. It gives Jean-Marc and I the time to actually really walk you through a lot of exercises, and take the time to get you to move. As a speaker and as a person, I'm all about action. So this is all about action. So we're going to be doing this February 16th through March 16th. The course information is all up on Eventbrite. We're doing this, I think, for an extremely reasonable cost. We're both involved, and it's $199. So just something for you guys to think about. Next, there's a couple of offers, and then I'd like to, take some questions. The next thing I just wanted to share with you guys is, as I mentioned, we do at my agency a lot of video work, and primarily it's for small business owners, and some of those are speakers. We also have a podcast called Uncover, which is all about uncovering the truths in business. It's pretty fun stuff. And if you could click Jean-Marc, I think there's more information on the bottom there. But basically, what we're offering in our new, we're in Long Island City. We have a large studio over here. What we're offering for any small business owners, and for you guys too, is in March we're doing $750 for a full video shoot with editing, and we're actually going to do social media seeding of the video for you guys. We're going to throw that into our podcast so you can start to get like immediate visibility. So I think I want to stop there because I don't think we have a lot of time, and I'd like to see if Jean-Marc and I can take any questions, and then we can also follow up with email with other things as well as a recording of this webinar. So Jean-Marc, do you want to open this up?
Yeah.
I think just open it up to the chat and we can take any questions.
Okay, so I've unmuted everyone and
yeah, I think there's in the chat, I think if people just leave in the chat, we can tackle that first.
Okay, so I see a question in the chat from Tony. My particular issue is that although I've spoken many times in my former capacity as a database marketing expert, I am now trying to recreate my brand around personal freedom and build a new platform around that brand. Any tips to jumpstart that recreation process?
Yes, Tony, I certainly, personal branding strategy is all about creating a brand, right? So you say you want to create your brand around personal freedom. I don't know anything about that, and we could take that, we could take that separately. You and I could do a phone call. But basically, as far as jump starting a process, the best thing to do is get it down on paper in terms of, first of all, what is this? Right? What are you trying to create? What are some specific goals, right? Where do you see this thing living, right? Is this going to be something that's driving revenue online, offline, or both? And it's also about defining the target audience and really understanding, how you're going to make this work, which means what resources do you have and what resources do you need? And that's very general. I actually have a couple things that I can give away for free, and we can send for the webinar, I can send it out to the list. I have a personal branding checklist, and also have a personal branding action plan. That's, I sell these things, but for this guy, I can give you guys this and send you links to it. And I think, Tony, that would definitely get you started. And then if you needed more help, you could let me know.
Great, thank you.
Okay, and I see Tony is your news site, the declaringfreedom.com. More now about spreading the word, not concerned about monetizing at this point, just building relationships and community, as you said very eloquently in an earlier slide.
Thanks. I have a cold, so I don't know how eloquent I am today. I apologize, everybody, but I'm so stuffed up. So.
Yeah. Jasmine, you hide it very well.
I really do have a bad cold. I'm like trying not to sneeze.
So we are at the top of the hour, so we can take maybe one or two more questions if you have a few minutes to hang around, Jasmine.
Yeah, I have a couple of minutes. I think Jennifer has a question.
Yeah, so Jennifer asks, can the video program you're offering do an interview style video where you're the expert getting the mojo out of the video folks?
Hi, Jennifer. So are you talking about where you're the expert? I just need to understand that question a little bit, please. Are you talking about our program? Because this program specifically is we interview you, the speaker and the business owner. It's an interview. It's basically a personal brand commercial. So we're interviewing you about you as a speaker, and we're pulling things out and we're creating a commercial for you, and then we're seeding that out in social media for you.
Right, that's exactly what I was trying to get. I was just trying to unmute my microphone because I muted it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to get. So you would be interviewing me or whomever it would be on the video to be able to get the quote unquote mojo out of us to be able to go in that video commercial.
Yeah, exactly. And I have an example here that I have a few examples, but yeah. So it's really about interviewing you. You are your business. Obviously, we get a backdrop on that. And then it's really a video for you to use, but we also seed it through our podcast series. But it's commercial for you, yes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to be respectful of everybody's time. I know we said we're going to be an hour with you guys, but if you have any more questions, we're happy to answer them. Okay, I see silence.
Okay, John Marc, I think what would be great is for everyone that registered and first of all, everybody that came on for an hour, I know how precious time is, so I really want to thank you for that. Secondly, for anyone that's on and anyone that registered, I'm going to do a follow-up email. I'm going to send you some links to freebies that you can download. Jean-Marc as well, if you have anything that you want to send over. And we, in our course, we're going to be doing giveaways of our books and other things that we're doing. So I'll send a follow-up email with some things that you guys can have for free. And, if you have any questions for us, you can just reach me on jasminesandler.com. Very easy to find on the internet. And Jean-Marc, if you want to give your, direct contact, I think that would be good.
Yeah, so you can also email me at jeanmarc@bernmediaenterprises.com, and I'm actually putting it here in the chat as well for everyone to see. And for everyone that registers, for either one of the offers, I will also send you a signed copy of my book, The Heart-Voice Connection, which walks you through all the exercises, really getting deep into all the details that we just scratched the surface on today.
Perfect. Well, thank you, everyone. And here's to your speaking careers. Believe me.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you, everyone. And may the voice be with you. Oh, the sign-up link again. Whoops, let me.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna send everything out in the email to you guys.
Okay, so we'll send
all the things that we covered today, all the freebie downloads, and everything else. I'll send in a follow-up email.
All right. Well, sounds good. Thank you, Jasmine. Thank you, everyone. Have an awesome day.
Thank you, Jean-Marc. Take care.
Thank you both. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Pleasure. Bye.